As much as I understand why people open their Bibles and just ask that God would speak directly to them, the problem with that is the text you're asking God to speak to you through is a text from the past that was written not to you but to other people originally. I sometimes put it this way, that these texts were written for us, but they weren't written to us. And if we're to hear what they have to say for us, we have to reckon seriously with what they meant. One of the important things I try and get across to students is that we don't have a book of systematic theology in the Bible. We fundamentally have a story with lots of other things embedded in that story, like prophetic texts and so on. And therefore, if we're going to read the Bible well, we have to learn to read story well, and we have to learn to read ancient story well. You often find very minor characters carrying the story along in a positive way. In fact, I think it's one of the great biblical themes, that it's the unnoticed people, the humble people, the ordinary people, the marginalized people, who actually carry the story of redemption along, not the heroes and the kings and so on and so forth. It's part of the way in which the biblical story is quite unique. Ancient stories on the whole dwell on heroes. They're largely stories like the story of Achilles and Troy and Odysseus and his great journey. They're typically stories about men who are trying very hard to be gods. They're not people who live ordinary lives. In fact, ordinary living is somewhat despised in these stories. And that's very much a part of our culture too. It seems to me that ordinary living is despised. You're only really authentic if you're pursuing your dream, etc., etc. Whereas I think biblical faith is much more about getting on with ordinary stuff and doing it well and doing it faithfully. And all of these smaller characters remind us of that reality.